They set off silently, each in their own thoughts. Holly led them through the back streets, always taking the ways that were quiet and hidden. But the light and noise grew stronger the further they went on. The rumbling of the city was louder, harsher. Soon they couldn't avoid the dirty orange glare of street lights. They were in the open now, coming up to a crossroads. Holly's fur prickled up fast. "Hide!" she hissed. They pressed themselves back into the alley, just in time to see a column of cats patrolling the other side of the crossroads. Varjak's insides knotted as he saw them, and his cheek burned where Ginger had slashed him. Holly was right. They looked much worse than the cat who had nearly killed him. There were 7 of them. They swaggered and they strutted on the sidewalk as if they owned the whole world. Other cats got out of their way, scurrying aside as they approached. At the head of the column was a brawny Tom with stripy fur. Varjak caught a glimpse of his face. He was covered in scars. "That's Razor," whispered Tam, "one of her lieutenants." The 3 of them crouched silently in their hiding place, waiting until the patrol had passed. "Okay," said Holly at last. "It's clear now. Come on, let's move before they come back." "This crossroads is the boundary," Tam told Varjak as they left the safety of the alley. "Don't ever cross it." "I won't," he said. There were no shadowy alleys where Holly took them. Instead, there were tall, white buildings arranged in a square. In its centre was a water fountain and a huge stone column pointing up at the sky. Around the column's base, there were 4 statues, one at each corner. They were statues of lions made of gleaming bronze. They were giants. Each paw was the size of a man. They had shaggy wild manes around their heads, proud, free, fearless faces. They were so powerful, so magnificent, so sure of themselves. "That's what we should be," whispered Tam. "That's what we could be," said Varjak. "They're great." They sat for a while, just looking at the statues. "We can only come here late at night," said Holly. "During the day it's too crowded. People, cars, dogs, but at least it's neutral ground. The gangs leave it alone, which means they also leave the birds alone." Varjak looked again. He was so thrilled by the statues, he'd hardly noticed that the square was swarming with pigeons. Dozens of them strutted about beneath the moonlight, and more were coming in all the time. The air pulsed with their trilling and cooing. "So, tell me, Mr. Paw," said Holly, "how exactly would you hunt one?" "What do you mean?" said Varjak, suddenly suspicious. Was she making fun of him again? He'd never tried to hunt a bird. It seemed too difficult. "I mean, go and get one of those pigeons." Now that sounded like a challenge. He searched her mustard eyes. She didn't look like she was making fun of him. She meant it. "All right," he said, "I will." "Holly," said Tam, "that's not fair. Don't take any notice of her, Varjak. She's been mean again." "No, I want to do it," he said, still looking into Holly's eyes, and she smiled. Varjak slunk into the square. He selected a bird and turned all his awareness onto it. He observed it with his eyes, his ears, his whiskers. Nothing it did could surprise him now. He and it were one. He crept towards the pigeon. In the whole world, there was nothing but him and his prey. Varjak sprung, and 100 wings came at him, 100 claws curved out, and 100 beaks cawed in chaos. Panic, Varjak fled from the flock. He hadn't expected anything so fierce. His fur ruffled and his tail trembled. He hid behind Holly and Tam, and he watched the bird settle down from a safe distance. "Varjak," cried Tam, "are you okay?" He shook his head. "I told you, Holly, no one could do that." "Exactly," said Holly. "That's exactly what happens to me every time. That's why even the gangs don't bother with this place. But I always think if we could just work out how to catch the birds, we would never go hungry again." "It's impossible," panted Varjak. His pulse was pounding. "Impossible." "For one cat, yes," said Holly. "And yes, we usually hunt alone. But imagine the three of us hunting together. It could just work. Well, that's the plan. What do you think? Yes, said Varjakpal. I don't like the sound of this, said Tam. She buried her head in her paws and curled up to sleep. Wake me up when it's time to go home.